Exodus chapter 11. Most of you are there. And then this is lesson 46. So Israel leaving Egypt. We've done the plagues in 3 different groups. And now we're going to just finish up with the last plague. Okay? And Israel's Exodus. Obviously it's called Exodus, the book of the Bible. They're leaving. But we're going to start at chapter 11. Now we left off last time with Pharaoh said after the 9th plague, he said to Moses, I don't want to see your face no more. And Moses said, fine, sounds good to me. Thou hast spoken well. I will see thy face again no more. But he didn't turn and walk out the door. Instead, he gave some prophetic words to Pharaoh before he left. The Lord, obviously using Moses here, tells him of the last plague that's going to happen before Moses leaves. So chapter 11, take a look there. So here's what Moses says to Pharaoh before he leaves. And the Lord said unto Moses, Yet will I bring one plague more upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterwards he will let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence altogether. So it's not only that he's going to let you go, but he's going to be pushing you. Get out, get out. Speak now in the ears of the people, and let every man borrow of his neighbor, and every woman of her neighbor, jewels of silver and jewels of gold. This is from the Egyptians that they'll be taking. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of the people. And Moses said, Thus saith the Lord, about midnight. So now here he's talking about what's going to happen. About midnight will I go out in the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, to the lowest person, and all the firstborn of beasts, that affect the animals too, that are left. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall be like it any more. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue, against man or beast, that ye may know how that the Lord doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. And all these servants shall come down unto me, and shall bow down themselves unto me, saying, Get thee out, and all the people that follow thee. And after that I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in a great anger. So there's where he finally leaves. And the Lord said unto Moses, Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. And Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh, and the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he would not let the children of Israel go out of this land. Okay? So we have a few things there that we want to make sure we point out. Okay? First of all, we said there, Pharaoh won't just tell you to leave, but he's going to push you out. He says, God tells him you're going to tell the people to borrow from their neighbor jewels of silver and jewels of gold, and that borrow there, the idea is there is to ask for, or they'll give it to you. They're going to be so willing to get you out of here in the end. Okay? And then he tells exactly what's going to happen, that there's going to be a great cry in the land. Okay? All of the firstborn are going to die. Not only the poor people, but the rich. Pharaoh's firstborn son will die, and everyone, to the poorest person, and the firstborn of all the beasts also will die. So if the animals aren't decimated now, surely they will be decimated soon. Okay? And they're going to hate it so much, they're going to tell thee, get out, get out, get out. And then Moses here now is cast out from the presence of Pharaoh. So verse 12, okay? Now this didn't happen right away. Moses didn't walk out of there, and that night that happened. Okay, this happened later, weeks later, months maybe. The exact time that Moses went in here we don't know, but we know the time of the day of when it did happen, and it was not right away. Pharaoh was kept in suspense, waiting for this plague to happen. He didn't know exactly what night or what day it would happen. Okay? The Israelites will know. God will come to Moses before he does the plague, okay, that kills all the firstborn, and he's going to have him, okay, alert the people so that they properly can prepare themselves. Because once this plague happens, Israel is going to be leaving. They're going to be cast out. So they need to be ready. Okay? And that's what chapter 12 has to do with here. So let's take a look at that there. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months, and it shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto him his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make you count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. He shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, and ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood, and strike it on the two side posts, and on the upper door post of the house wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire, and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden at all with water, but roast with fire, his head with his legs, and with the purtenance thereof. And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning. And that which remaineth of it until the morning ye shall burn with fire. So let's go over some of these first things that we see here. Okay? So, on such and such a day, the first day of the month, okay, these people are commanded to take a lamb. What's particular about the lamb? What are some qualifications that the lamb needs to be? Colin? Okay, it's got to be a male lamb. Jennifer? Spotless, without blemish. Perfect. Don't give one that's maybe sickly or got a broken leg. Joe? 1 year old. Okay, those are the qualifications. Take that animal and get it ready so that on the 14th day of the month, on that evening, in the evening, you are going to sacrifice it. Okay? Now, every family has to do this. Every family needs to participate in this. God now says, now hang on. Obviously, a lamb is a lot of food to eat, and in the end we see he doesn't want it wasted. So if, let's say there's a newly married couple with no children living next door to an older couple, well, neither of them can eat one lamb by themselves, so get together with your neighbors and share the lamb. Be wise. God doesn't want there to be leftovers. Okay? So those are some instruction there. Good. And obviously, who is that lamb a picture of? Eventually, why does it have to be spotless and blameless and perfect, Micah? Okay? Good. It's a picture of Jesus. And then in that evening, all of the congregation is going to kill their lambs. Okay? And then they're going to, now it was common in the day, some of you probably do this hunting. After you gut the animal, you hang it up so that the blood drains out, right? They would have collected that blood in a basin or a bowl. And then they're going to strike it, which means take something and paint it as though we think on the side post of the door of your house and on the top post over the door of your house. Take that blood and put it there. Okay? Strike it on there with whatever tools or utensils you have. Okay? And then eat the flesh that night, and you're going to roast it above a fire. So we can imagine a fire burning. Okay, a spit, so with some wood sticks and a stick or rod thrust through that meat, the whole animal there, and it's probably turning and turning and turning because it can't be raw. They don't want it raw. They don't want it sodden at all with fire like how we would boil something. This is going to be a roasted lamb that you're going to eat above the spit on the fire so they can pull off pieces as it's finished and eat that. Okay, we'll see some other things that there, but they're going to eat it with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs. In the morning, nothing should remain. If there is anything that remains in the morning, burn it with fire. Okay? Don't just leave it, but it's burned with fire, completely consumed. All right, now let's pick up at verse 11. Okay? Well, no, we can start there. Verse 11. And thus shall ye eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods of Egypt will I execute judgment. I am the Lord. And take the blood, and the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. And the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations, and ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day ye shall put away the leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day unto the seventh day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. Okay? So we have some of that stuff. So here's the specific instructions. Okay? eat it standing up. This is not a meal gathered around the table. You're going to be going by that spit, tearing chunks of flesh off as it's cooked and eating it. You're going to be eating unleavened bread. Okay? So you're going to be eating standing up. You're going to have your sandals on. You're going to have your staff next to you. You're going to have all of your possessions and belongings packed up, probably on your back, and ready to go at a moment's notice. Okay? And while you're doing that, God is going to visit Egypt. Okay? He's going to send his angel. And that angel will go to the land of Egypt. And in the land of Goshen and Egypt, whatever house does not have that blood painted around the doorpost, God will go into that house, and the firstborn in that home will be killed, okay? As well as any beast. Those who have the blood on the doorpost, the angel will pass over. Therefore, it's called the Passover feast. He will not go into that house and kill that person's firstborn because they showed that they obeyed God. They loved the Lord, and they obeyed him, and they took and they used blood to strike on the doorpost there, okay? We saw they had to eat some unleavened bread. Why? Why unleavened bread? Maybe you can remember from, maybe it touched on in past Bible stories. Why? Well, what's unleavened bread look like? Unleavened bread. Colin? Yeah. Think of maybe a little pita bread or cracker, wafer type. Okay? Something flat bread. Not a nice loaf of bread that's risen. Okay? What's in bread that makes it rise? Logan? Yeast. And it takes time. Maybe mom sets out a roll of bread in the morning, and by evening time it's risen enough that it's ready to be baked. Okay? Well, they don't have time. They are preparing this food at dinner time and nighttime, and in the night God's going to visit, and they're going to be thrust out of Egypt. Okay? So they don't have time for that bread to rise. Plus, the yeast is a picture of, when we say there's a parable, the leaven leaveneth the whole lump. So that yeast is a picture of sin. Okay? They don't want to have that sin of Egypt with them. They want to leave it behind, so they eat unleavened bread. We also see, and it talks about that a little bit more, about the sauce. It needs to be a bitter sauce, or obviously that they would probably dip the bread or the meat in. It needs to be covered with bitter herbs and stuff. Okay? Because obviously the work that Israel has to do is a bitter work. It's a miserable work there in Israel. And so is sin. And they're going to be leaving that behind. So, why are they doing it at night? Well, at night is a time of darkness. And Israel being taken out of the darkness of Israel is a picture of obviously being taken out of the darkness of sin. So, they have those pictures there for them. They have those directions. Okay? Verse 29. Why don't you skip ahead to verse 29. And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants. So remember, this is not immediately. This is a surprise. They've been waiting in suspense for this, and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And he called for Moses and Aaron by night, and said, Rise up and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go serve the Lord as ye have said. They didn't come before Pharaoh because he didn't want to see them, but the message gets sent out. Also take your flocks and your herds, as he has said. So he's giving in to all the demands. All of you can go. Go out and worship your God. Take your herds and flocks with you. Be gone. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people, meaning they're pushing them, that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, We be all dead men. They're afraid that if these Israelites stay there a minute longer, not only will the firstborn be dead, but every Egyptian will be dead. Get out of here. And the people took their dough, that before it was leavened, and their kneading troughs, being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. So everything. Okay, utensils out of the kitchen, tools that they had been working with, clothing, it's all bound up, and they throw it on their backs, or they throw it on their animals, and they take it on out of the land of Goshen. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. Now again, there's that word borrowed. Okay, they didn't necessarily borrow here. It's not like, hey, can I borrow this so I can give it back to you later on? No, they went and they asked, and they were given. Okay, these guys gave it to them. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such thing as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. All right? Now, there's a little bit of more information, so they're pushed out. They're given these riches, these gold and silver, all this stuff. Now, why did they give that? I asked that there. What would many of the riches that the Israelites took out of Egypt eventually be used for? Anybody know? Did they find something? Jennifer? Well, they would definitely use it for the golden calf, but God has a greater purpose for them, a good purpose. That golden calf was a bad one. Logan? Yeah, the temple treasures, they're going to need a lot of gold and silver there, and these people can store it up and give it to the Lord. Okay? All right, so those are some things here. Now let's talk a little bit about the people. How many of them were leaving, and what were they like? Verse 37. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men besides children. And a mixed multitude went up also with them, and flocks and herds and even very much cattle. Okay? So this tells us 600,000 men. That's just the men. These are adult men. So, how many number? Let's speculate. What type of number were there? If we add in the women and the children, maybe how many are leaving? If there's 600,000 men, what's maybe a safe estimate? Micah? 1,500,000. Well, there's 600,000. So 1,500,000, what number would that be? There's a number, 1,500,000, but we say it a different way. Once you get up to 999,000, what comes next? A million. So you say 1.5 million is 1,500,000. So is that what you're thinking? Well, there's 600,000 men, plus women, plus children. So what's the number that you give? Logan? 2.4 million. Colin? 1 million total. Brody? 1.5 million. Well, obviously probably not all of those men were married, but probably a good portion of them were. These are adult men that we're talking about. 600,000 of them of the age of marriage, plus children. So if you just say, well, if each of them only had one kid, 600,000 plus 600,000, well, that's going to be 1.2 million. If you say, well, to have a kid, they're married, so that another 600,000 women, they're at 1.8, and most of them, we can probably assume, had more than one child. So a safe estimate might be around 2 million or more, 2.5 million, somewhere around there. That's how many people are leaving here, okay? And what's called a mixed multitude. What's the mixed multitude? We need to know about them. They're going to come up in some of our stories. Jennifer? All right, if an Israelite man married an Egyptian woman or an Israelite woman married an Egyptian man, they are a mixed marriage. They can't be right in the middle of the group. They'll be on the edges, but we'll see, okay? So, they have been there, verse 40. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. That's how long they were in Goshen, 430 years. Okay? And that tells us, again, how long, just what misery they were looking forward to this day. Okay? And they were happy to leave there. And they go out. We don't want to go any further here than what they went, but they left. They're pushed out of the land. And we read later on, let's see, chapter 13, verse 8. This is done because, where am I looking for here? 18. No, that's not the one I'm looking for. Well, anyways, the people go out in an orderly manner. It's not like just too many people just whoosh, run out, okay? But they organize themselves by tribes and families, and they go in rows and columns. And they keep it orderly as they march. Okay? So, that is how they left. They were ready because they were eating standing up. They had their sandals on, staff in hand, clothed, ready to go, stuff all packed up. Here they are eating the meat off the lamb that's being roasted, dipping it in a bitter sauce, eating unleavened bread. And while that's going on, it's dark of night. At midnight, God sends out the angel, and he goes in every home. The firstborn dies. God visits every home, and the firstborn in every home and cattle. They all died, okay? Except for those who had, again, taken the blood and put it on their posts. And once that happens, the Egyptians are moaning and groaning and weeping and wailing, and they say, leave, get out of here before we all die. Here, take my gold, take my silver, take my treasures. I just want to live. I don't care if I have that anymore. And the Israelites, happy to do so, take off and they leave. Okay? And we'll see what happens soon after they leave. Okay? I think we covered most of the questions. Okay? But that last one, G there, how do we celebrate the Passover feast today? We don't actually celebrate that. We don't do what God says here, where for 10 days, 7 days you can't work. You've got to do this with your unleavened bread. How do we celebrate the Passover feast nowadays? We don't need to because we live in the New Testament times. The Old Testament is done away. Amber? Yeah, the Lord's Supper would be our picture of the Passover feast. Okay? That is the same type of idea there. The pictures of salvation are very evident in both the Passover feast and in the Lord's Supper. Okay? And so we see that same thing here too. It's a picture of us sitting down in fellowship. Obviously, we sit down at dinner with other people. They are friends. We fellowship with them. And that's what we do here with this dinner, the Lord's Supper. We fellowship with God. The Israelites did that here at the Passover as a picture of fellowshipping with God. So the Israelites leave Egypt. We'll see what happens soon after they get out of the land. They're allowed to take everything. Everybody go, Pharaoh said. But what will happen? Will Pharaoh change his mind again and harden his heart? We'll have to see next time.